Sure. Here's an expanded, fast-paced version of part one of your story, written in a single flowing narrative around 1,000 words. Simple language, emotionally engaging, and fully compliant with YouTube monetization policies. Emma sat by the window, staring at the orange and red leaves swirling in the wind outside. The crisp autumn air reminded her of how quickly time passed. Her daughter Lily had been married to Ryan for only 6 months, but Emma already felt a strange connection with him. Ryan was polite, warm, and thoughtful, and there was something about his smile that always made her chest tighten a little. She had never thought of herself as someone who noticed men in that way, especially not her own son-in-law, but lately. She had felt drawn to him in a way that was gentle, confusing, and hard to ignore. That evening, as Emma tidied the living room, her phone buzzed on the side table. She glanced at it and saw a group message from Ryan. The message was short, casual, but it made her pause. "Hey, Mom, Lily's stuck at work tonight. My friends and I have a plan. Want to join?" Emma blinked and stared at the screen. His tone was playful, almost mischievous, and she could feel the warmth behind the words. She wasn't sure what kind of plan he meant, but curiosity pricked at her. She had never hung out with Ryan's friends before. She had met them, yes, polite greetings over dinner and brief exchanges at family gatherings, but nothing like an actual evening out. Emma sat down on the couch, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Should she reply yes? Should she let herself do something unexpected? Part of her hesitated. What if it was awkward? What if she didn't belong? But another part of her, a quiet, daring voice she hadn't heard in years, whispered, "Why not?" She typed back, "I'll think about it," and pressed send. Immediately, a flutter ran through her stomach. She poured herself a cup of tea and wandered back to the window. The sky was a deep violet now, and the first stars were beginning to appear. Emma thought about the past few months, how much she had missed connection. Lily's wedding had been wonderful, but once the honeymoon glow faded, Emma had found herself at home more often than she liked. Her friends were busy, and even though she had hobbies, they didn't fill the quiet void she sometimes felt. Ryan's invitation, innocent as it seemed, stirred something in her, longing for conversation, laughter, and the unexpected. The evening wore on, and Emma found herself pacing the living room. She tried to reason with herself. He's just being friendly. Nothing more. It's fine. You can go and just be polite. But every time she repeated it, she felt a twinge of excitement. The idea of being part of something, of stepping out of her usual routine and joining. Ryan and his friends felt both thrilling and a little terrifying as the clock ticked closer to the evening. Emma imagined what it would be like. She pictured Ryan laughing with his friends, the casual camaraderie in the air, the smell of coffee or perhaps light food. She imagined herself fitting in, laughing at a joke, sharing a story about Lily or herself. The thought made her pulse quicken. She couldn't help but smile at the anticipation. By the time Emma finally got dressed, she had made up her mind. She chose a soft, comfortable outfit, something that felt like her but also showed that she cared about the evening. She glanced at herself in the mirror, smoothing down her hair and adjusting her sweater. "It's just a casual night," she whispered, trying to calm the flutter in her chest. Just a casual night with Ryan and his friends. Nothing more. But even as she said it, her heart betrayed her with a small, quiet hope that tonight could be something more than just casual. When she arrived at the cafe where Ryan and his friends were gathering, she felt a mixture of nerves and excitement. The warm glow of the lights spilled onto the street and laughter drifted out as she pushed the door open. Ryan spotted her immediately and came over with that familiar, easy smile. "You came," he said, a note of surprise and delight in his voice. Emma felt a little rush of heat, both from the compliment and from the intensity of his gaze. "I wasn't sure I would," she admitted, smiling softly. Ryan's hand brushed hers lightly as he guided her to a seat, and the contact made her pulse race. His friends glanced over, curious but friendly. They introduced themselves again, made polite jokes, and within minutes the initial tension melted. Emma felt herself relaxing as laughter filled the small cafe. She shared stories about Lily, anecdotes from family gatherings, and the friends listened with genuine interest. She felt a warmth in her chest she hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of being seen, appreciated, and included. As the night went on, Emma realized she was enjoying herself far more than she had anticipated. Ryan was attentive, occasionally sharing a quiet joke with her or asking her opinion on a topic. Every time he looked at her, there was a softness in his eyes that made her heart skip. She told herself it was harmless, just friendship, but deep down she knew the connection was more complicated than that. She felt a mixture of admiration, affection, and a gentle longing that left her both excited and confused. The evening seemed to pass in a blur. Drinks were refilled, laughter echoed across the room, and Emma found herself caught up in the joy of being part of something new. When Ryan excused himself for a moment, she felt a pang of disappointment, missing his presence more than she expected. She sipped her tea slowly, looking around at the cozy cafe, feeling that small, unexplainable ache of wanting more attention, more time, more connection. When he returned, Emma couldn't help but notice the thoughtful expression on his face. The way he looked at her was different now, softer, more deliberate. He apologized for stepping away, and she nodded, smiling, though her heart still fluttered with anticipation. She didn't know what tonight would lead to, if anything. But the thrill of the unknown was exhilarating by the end of the night. Emma left the cafe with a lingering warmth in her chest. The cool night air felt electric as she walked to her car. Replaying moments of the evening in her mind, the laughter, the gentle touches, the quiet glances, she realized that Ryan's invitation had stirred something long dormant in her heart, the desire to feel connected, seen, and appreciated. And though the night had only just begun, she knew that it was a startan opening into a world she hadn't expected, full of emotion, subtle longing, and quiet possibilities. As she drove home, Emma felt a mixture of nervous excitement and gentle anticipation. She knew the night had changed something inside her, something she couldn't quite name yet. And though she didn't know what lay ahead, she smiled softly to herself, feeling that tiny spark of hope that sometimes the simplest invitations can lead to the most unexpected discoveries. This version expands the emotional depth and internal thought process while keeping the story clean, fast-paced, and suitable for a mature storytelling audience. If you want, I can also expand part 2 in the same style with a fast-paced, emotionally engaging narrative, keeping the cliffhanger at the end. Do you want me to do that next? Absolutely. Here's an expanded, fast-paced, emotionally rich version of part 2. Around 1,000 words, simple language, flowing in a single narrative, fully clean and suitable for YouTube storytelling. Emma stepped into the cafe, her heart beating a little faster than usual. The warm light spilled over the wooden tables, and laughter floated through the air like a soft melody. Ryan's friends were already gathered around a large table, chatting easily, their voices blending with the quiet hum of background music. Emma paused for a moment, taking it all in, feeling both nervous and strangely excited. This was new territory for her, but she reminded herself that it was just a casual evening with her daughter's husband and his friends, nothing more, nothing less. Ryan noticed her immediately, and his face lit up with genuine delight. "You came," he exclaimed, making his way through the group to reach her. His smile was warm, easy, and it made Emma's chest flutter unexpectedly. "I wasn't sure you would," she admitted, returning the smile. The tension she had felt on the way here began to melt as Ryan guided her to a seat beside him. His hand brushed hers lightly, a fleeting touch that left a gentle spark behind. And she couldn't help but feel a quiet thrill at the simple contact. The group welcomed her with curiosity and friendliness. Introductions were made, and jokes were shared that made Emma laugh more than she had in weeks. Ryan's friends were lively, talkative, and somehow immediately put her at ease. She shared small stories about Lily's childhood, little memories of family moments. And the group listened with interest, nodding, laughing, and asking questions that made her feel included. It was a world Emma had never experienced before, and she realized with a quiet surprise how much she had been missing this sense of camaraderie. Ryan leaned in occasionally, whispering a joke here, a comment there, and every time he spoke, Emma felt a warmth she struggled to name. It wasn't romantic in the conventional sense, but it was personal. Intimate in the way someone notices the small details about you. He asked about her day, her thoughts, even her favorite kind of coffee. The questions were simple, ordinary, but they carried a care and attention that made her heart feel lighter than it had in months. The evening moved swiftly. Emma sipped her tea, laughing at stories from Ryan's friends, watching them interact, feeling the gentle pull of belonging. There was something comforting about the way Ryan looked at her, not with judgment, Kay, not with expectation, but with interest and warmth. She realized that she hadn't felt this kind of attention in a long time, and it left her with a mix of delight and quiet longing. At one point, Ryan suggested a walk along the river nearby. The idea was spontaneous, and Emma's heart jumped at the thought of stepping out into the crisp night air. She agreed quickly, and the group moved outside, the chilly breeze brushing against her face as they walked. Streetlights reflected in the water, creating a ribbon of silver along the river, and Emma found herself mesmerized by the quiet beauty. Ryan offered his arm, and she took it without hesitation, feeling a strange but comforting sense of security in his presence. The walk was filled with casual conversation, laughter, and soft, unspoken moments. Ryan's friends wandered ahead, talking among themselves, leaving Emma and Ryan a little space. She noticed the way he glanced at her occasionally, a smile tugging at his lips, a warmth in his eyes that made her feel seen in a way she hadn't in years. The connection was subtle but undeniably quiet understanding. A shared presence that didn't need words. As they walked, Emma's thoughts wandered. She thought about Lily and how much she loved her, how proud she was of the woman she had become. But she also realized that she hadn't considered her own heart in a long time. Tonight had reminded her that she still had feelings, desires, and a need for connection beyond family duties. It was a gentle awakening, a reminder that she could still feel alive, still laugh, still be noticed and appreciated. The conversation between Emma and Ryan shifted naturally. They shared stories from their pasts, small regrets, little triumphs. Emma found herself opening up more than she intended, speaking honestly about things she usually kept private. Ryan listened, truly listened, his expression soft, encouraging, and full of empathy. She felt a sense of relief, a feeling of being understood without judgment. The night was shaping into something she hadn't anticipated, something tender, comforting, and quietly powerful. But just as the moment seemed perfect, Ryan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowning slightly. Emma noticed the change in his expression, the way his shoulders stiffened just a little. I have to take this for a moment, he said softly, apologetic, and stepped a few paces away. Emma felt a flicker of disappointment at his absence. Realizing how much she had grown accustomed to his presence in the last hour, she stood by the railing, watching the moonlight ripple across the river, feeling a strange combination of excitement and uncertainty. Left alone, Emma reflected on the evening so far. She realized that Ryan had a way of making her feel both young and wise, seen and appreciated. It was a rare combination, one she hadn't experienced in a long time. Her heart felt lighter, her mind buzzing with thoughts and emotions she hadn't expected. She sipped her tea and watched the river, the sounds of the city around her fading into a gentle backdrop, leaving only the feeling of anticipation for what was to come. When Ryan returned, he looked at her with a thoughtful expression. "Sorry about that," he said, his voice soft and sincere. "I didn't mean to leave you waiting." Emma smiled, feeling her heart lift at this simple gesture. She realized that even small acts, small moments of attention carried weight. They made her feel valued, noticed, and quietly cherished. As the night grew later, the group slowly dispersed. Ryan walked beside Emma as they returned to the cafe entrance, their steps slow, measured, as if neither wanted to break the spell of the evening. Emma felt a warmth she hadn't felt in years, a gentle thrill at the closeness and attention. It wasn't romantic in the obvious sense, but it was intimate, personal, and deeply satisfying. She had never imagined that spending time with Ryan and his friends could feel so meaningful, so alive. At the door, Ryan paused, looking at her with a mix of admiration and warmth. "I'm glad you came tonight," he said simply. Those words, ordinary as they were, carried a weight that made Emma's chest tighten. She nodded, smiling softly, knowing that tonight had changed something inside, hers something quiet, gentle but impossible to ignore. As she drove home under the clear, starry sky, Emma replayed the evening in her mind. Every laugh, every glance, every small gesture between her and Ryan seemed to linger, echoing in her heart. She felt a mix of gratitude, excitement, and a subtle longing for what might come next. Tonight had been unexpected, full of laughter and warmth, but also full of unspoken possibilities. And as she pulled into her driveway, she realized that she couldn't wait to see what the next moment, the next conversation might bring. The night had started as a simple invitation, a casual plan with Ryan and his friends, but it had unfolded into something more, something tender, meaningful, and quietly thrilling. And Emma knew as she turned off the car and walked to her front door, that the memory of this evening would linger in her heart long after the laughter faded, leaving her with a gentle hope that perhaps some connections, even unexpected ones, could change life in ways she had never imagined. This version keeps the story fast-paced, emotionally rich and clean, with gentle romantic undertones and a subtle cliffhanger for part 3. If you want, I can now write part 3 in the same style, giving it a satisfying, emotionally charged conclusion with a heartfelt yet YouTube-friendly tone. Do you want me to do that next? Absolutely. Here's an expanded, fast-paced, emotionally rich version of part 3. Around 1,000 words, simple language, flowing in a single narrative. Fully clean and suitable for YouTube storytelling. The night air was crisp as Emma stepped out of the car, the memory of the evening still fresh in her mind. Her heart was full of warmth, and a quiet excitement lingered like a soft hum beneath her skin. Walking toward the front door, she replayed the small moments she shared with Ryan, the laughter, the gentle touches, the way his eyes seemed to notice things no one else did. Every detail of the night seemed vivid, almost surreal. And she realized just how much she had been craving connection, attention, and simple companionship. Tonight had given her all of that and more. Inside the house, the quiet seemed almost too still after the lively energy of the cafe and the river walk. Emma sank into the armchair by the window, her thoughts spinning as she sipped the last of her tea. Ryan's presence lingered in her mind, not in a way that felt inappropriate, but in a way that felt deeply personal. It was the kind of attention that made her feel valued, seen, and quietly cherished. She thought about his kindness, the way he had guided her through the evening, and the way he had listened to her stories as if they were the most important thing in the world. Emma's phone buzzed, breaking her reverie. It was a message from Ryan. Thanks for tonight. I hope you got home safely. Her heart skipped a beat and she typed back quickly. I did. It was wonderful. Thank you for inviting me. As she hit send, a small smile tugged at her lips. She could feel the lingering warmth of the night, the subtle thrill of shared moments, and the quiet longing for more. The next few days were filled with reflection. Emma found herself thinking about Ryan often, replaying their conversations, his laughter, the softness in his voice when he spoke to her. It wasn't just admiration or friendship. There was plenty of both. It was a deeper connection, subtle bond that made her feel alive in ways she hadn't experienced in years. She realized that life had a way of presenting unexpected moments. Moments that could change her perspective, her heart, and her sense of self. One afternoon, Ryan stopped by with Lily still at work. Emma greeted him at the door, feeling a flutter in her stomach that surprised her. Hey, Mom, he said warmly, handing her a small bouquet of flowers he had picked from the corner shop. Just thought you might like these. The gesture was simple, but it carried meaning. Emma accepted them with a smile, her fingers brushing his briefly, and felt that same quiet spark from the night they had spent together. They settled into the living room, chatting about ordinary things, work, the house, small family updates, but the conversation always circled back to a place of connection that felt rare and precious. Ryan's presence was comforting, easy, and somehow invigorating. Emma noticed the subtle gestures, how he made sure she had a comfortable chair, how he listened attentively, the way his eyes softened when he laughed at one of her stories. It was the kind of care that built trust and affection without needing to speak it aloud. As the evening wore on, Emma found herself opening up more than usual. She talked about her dreams, the things she wanted to do for herself, the little adventures she had postponed over the years. Ryan listened, encouraging her gently, asking questions that made her feel validated and understood. It was more than friendship. It was a connection that nourished her soul, a reminder that she was still capable of feeling deeply and fully, of laughing, enjoying, and being appreciated later. They decided to take another walk outside, just the two of them this time. The streetlights cast long reflections on the pavement, and the night air was filled with a quiet serenity. They walked slowly, side by side, comfortable in the silence, each step building a subtle intimacy that needed no words. Emma noticed how natural it felt to be with him, how easily their conversation flowed, and how safe and seen she felt in his presence. Ryan paused near a small park bench, turning to look at her with a thoughtful expression. "I've been thinking about tonight," he said softly, "and about you. I realized something important. You've always been more than just Lily's mom to me. You're a friend, a guide, someone I truly admire." His words were gentle, deliberate, and Emma felt a rush of emotions, gratitude, warmth, and a quiet joy she hadn't anticipated. It wasn't a declaration of romance, but it was an acknowledgement of their bond, a recognition of the connection they shared. Emma's chest tightened with emotion. She realized that this was rare, this kind of understanding and appreciation that went beyond casual conversation. She smiled softly, feeling a wave of relief and contentment. I feel the same," she admitted. "You've made these past months so much brighter than I expected. I didn't realize how much I needed this connection." The moment was quiet but powerful, filled with mutual respect, understanding, and a gentle affection that neither needed to define in labels. They stayed on the bench for a while, talking about small things, laughing at shared memories, and enjoying the calm of the night. Emma felt a sense of completeness, a feeling that she had found something meaningful, something tender and quietly transformative. It was the kind of bond that didn't rush, didn't demand, but simply existed with warmth, care, and subtle affection. When it was time to head back, Ryan walked her to her car. The night was calm, the sky clear, and the city lights twinkled like scattered stars. "Thank you again for tonight," Emma said softly, her heart still full of emotion. It was unforgettable. Ryan smiled, his eyes reflecting the same gentle warmth she felt in her chest. "Anytime, Mom. I'm glad we spent this time together. It means a lot to me, too." As she drove home, Emma reflected on the evening and the past few days. The connection she felt with Ryan was complex, subtle, and deeply meaningful. It wasn't about romance in a conventional sense, but it was about respect, admiration, and a quiet affection that touched her heart. She realized that some bonds didn't need to be labeled, they simply existed. And their impact was profound, leaving an imprint on the soul. Back in her home, Emma stood by the window, looking out at the quiet night. The stars shimmered above, and she felt a soft sense of hope. Tonight had been unexpected, yet it had opened a door to meaningful connection, shared understanding, and emotional intimacy that went beyond ordinary interactions. She smiled to herself, feeling grateful for the moments she had shared, for the laughter, the talks, and the quiet glances that had left her heart light and full. Emma knew that life was full of surprises, and that sometimes the most unexpected plans could bring the deepest joy. Ryan's friendship, his care, and the gentle attention he offered had reminded her of the beauty of connection, of being seen and valued, and of the quiet power of emotional closeness. She felt a gentle warmth in her heart, knowing that these moments would stay with her, carrying a soft, lasting impression of tenderness and joy as she finally turned off the lights and settled into bed. Emma thought about the night, about Ryan, and about the small yet significant moments that had changed her perspective. There was no rush, no pressure, just a quiet, enduring sense of affection, understanding, and mutual respect. And as sleep crept in, she smiled softly, knowing that sometimes the simplest invitations, the unplanned evenings, and the unexpected connections could touch the heart in ways nothing else could. The night had ended, but the feeling lingered, a gentle reminder that life could surprise her, that connections could deepen in subtle, meaningful ways, and that even quiet moments could leave a lasting mark on the soul. And Emma knew without doubt that this was only the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with warmth, understanding, and the quiet thrill of human connection that nourished the heart, and left her looking forward to every tomorrow. This version keeps the story fast-paced, emotionally engaging, clean, and fully YouTube-friendly while bringing a satisfying, heartfelt closure to the story. If you want, I can also write 5 YouTube-optimized titles and 5 description texts specifically for this 3-part story to maximize engagement. Do you want me to do that next?